Batman is often described as a man without superpowers who stands against chaos using discipline, intelligence, and preparation. But all of that assumes one thing exists beneath him at all times: a system. Batman doesn't fight in a vacuum. He operates inside a city that still believes in rules, even when those rules are broken. So what happens if that disappears? Imagine Batman entering a world where there is no functional law, no courts, no legitimate police force, no prisons that hold, no social contract anyone believes in. At first, nothing seems different. Crime still exists. People still suffer. Batman still intervenes. But very quickly, the structure he relies on begins to collapse around him. Batman's method is not destruction, it's containment. He stops criminals so the system can take over afterward. The police arrest. The courts process. Society reinforces the idea that actions have consequences. In a lawless world, that chain ends immediately. There is nowhere to take criminals. No authority to hand them over to. No punishment that lasts longer than the night. Every victory becomes temporary. Batman disables the same groups repeatedly. They return faster, more violent, and more organized. Not because they are fearless, but because there is no lasting consequence to fear. Over time, something changes. Batman's presence becomes the only form of order people recognize. They don't call the police anymore. They wait. That sounds like success. It isn't. Because Batman was never meant to replace a system. He was meant to support one. Now, Batman isn't enforcing law. He is the law. And systems built on one person always break. He can't be everywhere. He can't investigate everything. He can't resolve disputes, manage resources, or rebuild trust. Criminals notice this before civilians do. They stop hiding. In a world without law, violence becomes currency. Power isn't about secrecy anymore. It's about control. Batman is no longer fighting criminals. He's fighting warlords. And this is where his code becomes a liability. Batman refuses to kill. That rule works in a world where removal from society is permanent. In a lawless world, it isn't. Every enemy he spares returns. Stronger, more ruthless, more willing to escalate. Batman adapts. He increases surveillance. He becomes more aggressive. He stays longer in the shadows. But the more force he uses, the more the public begins to fear him. There is no legal framework explaining who he is, no oversight, no accountability, no shared understanding of his role. To civilians, Batman becomes just another masked authority figure. At this point, Batman faces a choice he was never designed to make. Either he becomes more violent to maintain control, or he withdraws and allows chaos to spread. Neither option fits who he is. Batman was never meant to rule. He was meant to intervene. In a systemless world, intervention without replacement achieves nothing. And that leads to the final outcome. Batman doesn't fail because he is weak. He fails because his philosophy depends on something larger than himself. Rules, institutions, collective belief. Without those, his war on crime becomes an endless loop. Action without resolution. Batman can stop moments of violence. He cannot stop the conditions that create it. And that reveals something important. Batman is not a solution to chaos. He is a response to a system under strain. Remove the system entirely, and his purpose dissolves. Not because he can't fight, but because fighting alone has never been enough.